right, friends. Well, we know that others are going to be joining in here. And so Chris and I will be welcoming folks in as they come along to come and join us. As we get started here, I just want to remind everybody that we are recording this for those that were unable to join us this evening. And so if you would prefer for your image not to be in the recording we share, you can turn your video off and still partner or participate in the evening. We also ask that if you are not speaking, so particularly during the time that Anne will be speaking with us, if you could keep yourself muted, that would be greatly appreciated. So we're going to get kicked off here. Again, thank you to everybody for joining us this evening for our Transformation Academy. I want to share with you a little bit about our guest speaker with us this evening. The Reverend Anne Cox Bailey is with us this evening, and Anne is a former ballet and concert modern dancer and teacher. She was ordained an Episcopal priest in 2001. While attending seminary, her mother showed signs of changes in her brain function that turned out to be frontotemporal dementia. Seeking help for her mother led her to Tepa Snow, world-renowned expert in dementia. And since 1999, she has studied and trained using the knowledge to help others, and is now a certified coach and consultant in Tepa's positive approach to care. And Anne has demonstrated a commitment to alleviating the fear, the anguish, and the ignorance that accompany most people in dementing diseases. And we are so grateful that you are with us here this evening. Thank you for taking the time to address this subject. So welcome, and I will turn it over to you, friend.
Thank you, Jason. It's a great honor for me to be with you all tonight. I appreciate this so much. I have good news to share with all of you. And so let's start with a prayer. God be with you, and let us pray. Oh God, you manifest in your servants the signs of your presence. Send forth upon us the spirit of love, that in companionship with one another, your abounding grace may increase among us. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, we all know the bad news, don't we? The bad news is that dementias are progressive, debilitating diseases. There is no cure, not actually even anything that slows it down much. And there are medicines that can make it worse. And you die at the end. That's the bad news. But the good news is it is something that one lives with. In fact, not just the person who has the dementia, but everybody around them. I think a few of you may be accompanying people living with dementia, possibly. And so there are always two parts of the brain that are dying, and it keeps changing. That is one of the things that makes it frustrating, but it's also one of the things that can trigger our curiosity, that if we're curious about it instead of afraid of it, that we may be able to be of some use. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to share with you a little tiny bit of something called a positive approach to care. That's Tepa Snow. Her name is T-E-E-P-A, Tepa Snow. A patient gave her that name about 40 years ago, and I guess it stuck. So there are many different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is one of them. There's even a pediatric version of it. Lewy body disease, some of us may have heard of Lewy body disease. That one, Robin Williams had that. And even a person of such stature was unable to get the kind of treatment that he needed. That's how hard it is to treat these things. There are vascular dementias that are little strokes, and they make the brain change really quickly and precipitously, I'm sorry about my hand, it'll drop the level of ability suddenly instead of having it kind of be smoother. And then there are frontotemporal types of dementias that can come out as behaviors. That's what my mother had. And that's what made her life and our lives all so difficult. So basically, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala that stays fairly steady, and other parts of the brain start to change. The amygdala is where all of our emotions are and all of our desires are, and it's always knocking at the door. Bing, bing, bing. We have something in front of that that makes it stop and you can think about it. But this area gets peeled away quite quickly, and suddenly the person is all urges and needs and an inability to express themselves. So you take the person to the doctor, and the doctor does something called a mini mental status test and asks the person, what year is it? Who's the president? Count backwards by nines from 72 and a few other things like that. And learns what? Well, not a whole lot, actually. I mean, I'm not very good at counting backwards by nines from 72. But my mother could do it perfectly. That was kind of weird. And instead, what they're measuring is they're measuring the amount of loss that a person has. And that's frightening to everybody. It's even frightening to the medical professionals. They don't know what to do. They want to cure something, and there is no cure for this. So it becomes a bit depressing that all that they're measuring is loss. What Teepa Snow does is recasts that in a positive note. Instead of measuring what is lost, she works on what is retained. It wouldn't seem like much of anything's there. Quite often when I work with people, they tell me, oh, he's not the same person, she's not there anymore. And it just breaks a person's heart. Instead, I'd like to share with you what happens in the two sides of the brain. This is my left, and this is my right, okay, where our image is flipped here. So on the left side of the brain, in this area, if you look at it under a microscope, it looks like Swiss cheese. And this side of the brain is where your verbal abilities are stored, your memories, your immediate memories and more recent memories, your language arts, all of that is over here, and your ability to rationalize. The right side is completely different. Teepa says, language on the left, rhythm on the right. This side, if you look at it under the microscope, it isn't so full of holes. It's fairly well preserved. And that's where you find music, where you find prayer, where you find social chit chat. I had a parishioner once who was having TIAs, and boy, she could chat up a storm. It was just wonderful. Wasn't always sure what she was going to tell me after that, but boy, she knew who I was, and she was very adept. So social is very important. And also one other little factor is every dirty word you've ever heard. And quite often that will come right out of their mouths because, of course, the brakes aren't on anymore. Yeah. So instead of measuring what is lost, we measure what is retained. And Teepa describes this as a gemstone. You ever see an uncut diamond? It's ugly. But if you polish it and put facets on it and put it in a beautiful setting, it will shine. And that is true of every stage of dementia. Now, instead of counting backwards and saying, well, they're turning into children here, Do you know any children that can drive a car or balance a checkbook or have sex? Because adults that get this have done all those things. So they're not actually returning to childhood. What they're doing is changing inabilities, and then we're supposed to try to figure out how to keep up with them. The gems give us a tool to do that. The first gem is the sapphire. The sapphire is true blue. It can remain calm. It's aging, but it is handling it pretty well and has optimal cognition at the time. It's able to support other gemstones with proper care. The second one is a diamond. What are the qualities of a diamond? They're bright and shiny and sharp. Yes, brilliant even. So these are people who still have quite a bit of ability. They're early in the process of dementia, but they can be quite cutting. They're like the head of the girls' club or the head of the department, and they know their business and they're going to do it. One mother was running a large household with 6 kids. She had to be organized, right? And when she started to get dementia, she still wanted to run things, but she wasn't always able to do it. They live by habit and routine. They'll show you, they have facets. They'll show you different sides of themselves, depending upon the conditions, the stimulus around them, or the setting that they're in. They blame or dismiss errors. And they can say something to you that will hurt you. And it isn't on purpose. It is a self-protective mechanism. You're getting too close. They don't want you to know that about them. So they'll try to protect themselves by pushing you away. And it will probably be something quite accurate. So it sounds like, oh, they said that to me on purpose. But actually, it's their defense mechanism to protect themselves. Next, we go to the emerald. Now, emerald, if you're looking at a stoplight, emerald means go, doesn't it? They're always on the go. They're on the go with a purpose. They are also flawed. Emeralds are known for being flawed. So they have flaws, and they're having a little bit of difficulty maneuvering. They want independence sometimes. Sometimes they'll try to seek connection. They'll repeat themselves over and over. That's one of the things that drives people crazy, is listening to people repeat over and over and over again. Their vision, instead of being out here, is starting to come in, and it's like looking through a scuba mask. If you put your hands up to your face like this, can you put your hands up to your face? You will see that there's quite a bit less that you're not seeing over here and over here. And that if you want to see those things, you actually have to turn your head and look, you see? So their vision is starting to get smaller. Their understanding of words is also getting smaller. Instead of hearing every word in a sentence and being able to track the sentence through, they hear about every 4th word. So write a big, long, complicated sentence down. You have to get dressed because we have to go to this party tonight, and it's by the Joneses, and we'll be home by 10 o'clock. All those things, they can't understand them because there are too many things strung together, and they're not hearing every single word of it. They will try to cover up for that. They also start traveling in time and space. So you may ask them what year it is, and they will tell you a completely different year than the one we're living in, but they'll have stories about that time. They may be They may be pulling up very, very old memories that are actually beautiful little treasures. I found out a few things about my mom that I didn't know from one of these time travels. The next one is amber. In the stop signal, amber means slow down, slow down. Or if you think about it as amber itself, they're caught in a moment of time. Their ability to be safe, to keep themselves safe, is pretty much, this is this part again, it's pretty much not there anymore. And so they are curious about things and they'll get into stuff. They are focused on sensory needs. Now, the first one, of course, is sight, yes? So if they see something, they'll go after it. Touch, they'll want to touch it. And people will get in trouble, for instance, trying to bathe somebody, for example, and they'll be talking to them and saying, blah, 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 we're going to take a bath now, then not hearing every word. And the minute you go for their buttons, they're going to freak out. Or vice versa, they'll start saying, oh, this is really nice. And they'll take your glasses off or some other things. They live in this moment. Everything's about sensory. They'll put things in their mouths because that's also sensory. They can copy actions, but they can't necessarily do a task anymore. They will resist you. If they don't like it, you're not going to make them do it. That's all there is to it. And if they do like it, well, that's great. Then you get cooperation. And they can confuse things. They can mistake an apple for an orange, for example. A later stage is the ruby stage. And again, with our stoplight, red is stop. So they retain strength in their hands, for example, but not skill. These three fingers that we use are the skill fingers, and we use them to pick things up, right? These two fingers are our strength fingers. These become, if they hold on to you, they will hold on very tightly with these fingers, you see? For example, they cannot do fine details anymore. They can do big actions, strong actions, and they can imitate you. They will notice the tone of your voice, but they're getting down to monocular vision, and that is vision that takes just one eye. If you put your hands around one eye and block out every other sight, you'll see that to see something, you don't even know it's there until you turn your head and look, you see? So the person isn't going to know you're there unless they actually turn to look at you, for example. Now, one of the things that's useful for rubies is they still retain a sense of rhythm. So if they're sitting in a chair, they're not going to go anyplace. They're going to stay in that chair. Conversely, standing up, if they're standing up, they're going to stay standing. It's very hard to get them to sit down again. But if you use music and sing to them, row, row, row your boat, something very simple, and make a rocking action, you can actually get them up out of their chair, or you can get them to sit down again. Everything goes very slowly. Again, they do not hear every word. We have to be very careful that we use one word to help them to try to understand what it is you want them to do. And the final stage, I haven't seen but once, and that's a very tight stage. It looks like this. This is a, woo, where'd we go? This is a oyster shell, and it's hard and rough on the outside. People in this particular stage will be curled up quite often in a fetal position. And if you try to bathe them, or that you try to move their arms to bathe them or move their legs, they'll scream because it hurts. But every once in a while, you get a little glimpse when that shell opens up, and this is called the pearl stage. Just like in the Bible, the pearl of great price. It's possible to make a connection with people even at this very, very late stage. So the gems will shine when they're in the correct setting. Who's responsible for the setting? We are, all of us are. And that's where this training comes into play. It is possible to learn ourselves how to reach people in all these different stages. It's possible to develop an awareness and learn some knowledge about it. We have to be willing to make mistakes. Teepa said, I've done a lot of damage with old people over my years, especially in the early ones. I've made a lot of mistakes, but it's possible to apologize and then move on from there. What we have to do is work to change our own brains so that we're not afraid of it anymore. Now, one parishioner was 96 years old, and he was terrified of dementia. He wouldn't let me say the word in his presence. He was so scared. And I told him, I'm sorry, dear, you're way too old to get dementia. If you were going to get it, you would have gotten it by now. 85, about one in every 2 people has some form of dementia, and it can have a very late onset as well. But not everybody gets this kind of change. So what we have to do then is look at our own reactions, and that's not always easy to do. How do we react when we say the word dementia? Are we afraid of it? Do we not want to know about it? Do we think we already know enough? I've heard from family members who told me, well, I've got the car keys and the checkbook, so I'm in control. But what they're not in control of is their own emotions. And so it's getting to know ourselves and going from fear to a sense of curiosity. Why are they acting like that? Why are they doing that? And where does it come from? I wonder what it is they need. Maybe they need something. And then it's possible to go through, are you hungry, thirsty? Do you need to go use the restroom? Are you tired? Are you angry about something? And then it's possible, once you've established an understanding of where that person is, it's possible to lead them through to a different state of mind. Teepa is an expert at this. I've never seen anything like it. There was one guy, he was in a very late Ruby stage, and he was hitting his caregivers, literally physically beating them up. So they called her in after 3 of them got beaten up. They called her in, and she got down at his level, his eye level. He was in bed. They're just trying to get him up and get him to go to breakfast, right? And by speaking slowly and carefully and helping him, because he wasn't a person that woke up real quick, by helping him through that waking up process, she got him up and dressed and into the dining area so that he could have breakfast. Part of the problem was he was hungry, you see? So it's a matter of us maintaining this sense of curiosity. Another thing that scares us is our own mentation, shall we say. Dementia is not contagious. It's not cooties. You won't get it from them, although it'll make you think you're losing your own mind because they're losing theirs. Their perspective is changing. It's not a shared reality anymore. And when we can't share our reality, that can shake us up. It happens with mental illness sometimes when we don't share a reality with someone. And it definitely happens with dementia. I remember when my mother first had some very dramatic displays, and I was in seminary. I came flying down to San Diego to take care of her. I had no idea what was going on with her. And she had been sent to a psychiatrist. And that wasn't what was wrong with her. Sending her to a psychiatrist upset her and made her more combative. There was hardly any way at all to try to calm her down. So I was angry. I was angry because I didn't have that shared reality with my mother anymore. It freaked me out completely when she started asking me for permission for things. Wait a minute, I'm the child, I'm supposed to ask you. So once I got over the fact that she was different, I started wondering, how is she different? What is going on here? And every time her brain would change, it would show up in her behavior or in her vocabulary. Oh, brother, I didn't know she knew some of those words. It would show up, and I would know that something about her brain was changing. I didn't know what it was, but I could explore with her what it was she needed at the time. Does that sound a little bit more comfortable? Instead of being afraid of it, instead of being afraid of something, we face our fears and start to get curious about it, and then we can learn together. So this brings into focus the 3 types of care. One is caretaking. I'm taking care of this situation. This is a person who's in a diamond stage and who's feeling threatened and who needs to feel like they're in control. Well, nobody's in control of dementia, certainly not the person who's suffering. And so when we figure out we don't have to be in control of it, we just have to learn to go with the person as a companion, it makes things a lot easier. I saw a gentleman at church one time holding his wife's hand and dragging her across the parking lot to the church. That's caretaking. Caregiving is another type, and we hear this word all the time, caregiving. What could be wrong with that, for crying out loud? I'm trying to help. Yeah. But we get into trouble sometimes when we try to be helpful and what we're doing isn't helpful and it escalates the situation. That can be a problem. That's where we need to take a step back and take a breath. Breathing. What a wonderful thing. Did you know that 3 deep breaths have a physiological effect on your body? They lower the cortisol, the stress hormone in your body. So when you're feeling vulnerable in that way, when you're feeling stressed out, when you're feeling challenged, take 3 deep breaths very slowly, and you will actually affect your body. You'll be able to think more clearly. If it's possible, you can take a break and go away for a little bit, go outside and walk around, because movement also helps us bring our stress level down without any drugs whatsoever. These things are, and then you can come back and say, I'm so sorry that happened. That should not have happened. Let's see what else we can try. And then there is what TIPA does, and TIPA does care partnering. Just like Eve in the story of Genesis, we stand with the person as a partner and a helpmate. And we are that person's support in a way that puts them first. So say I've got a 10 o'clock appointment I have to get to. All right. So it's morning. I've got to get my husband up out of bed. I've got to get him dressed. I've got to get him fed. And I've got to get him to the day program so that I can get to my 10 o'clock appointment. That is my agenda for the day. Is it his agenda? No, it's not. So I have to find a way to hide my agenda so that I can help him do the tasks that I need him to do to get me to my meeting. Do you see what I'm talking about? That's partnering. That's partnering. So at this point, I would like to give you a little bit of help in case you might be feeling shaky doing all this caregiving. What can we do for ourselves that will help us feel that we're prepared in case something happens to our own brains? I'd like to share two tools with you. One tool is a replacement for the mini mental status test. It's very easy. Take 60 seconds on a timer and name all the animals you can. Do this with a partner so that each of you comes up with a number. Now, if you're in your 20s, you might be able to make 40 or 50 animals. You might be able to name that many, but you only have those 60 seconds. What this gives you is a baseline. It's a baseline. Then if you notice a change, you do the test again and see if there's been a change in the number. If the number is only changed 1 or 2 animals, it's not so much to worry about. It may be a stressor in your environment that's making you not think quite as clearly as usual. Or if there are 6 or 7, it's a big jump, then you may want to consider the possibility that you might need a little more help. See a neurologist. The neurologists are helpful because they can help you if they're not hung up on this themselves. A good one can help you figure out what kind of dementia you have, because it does matter. Alzheimer's is the most prevalent, but it's only one dementia. There are many, many more, and they all have slightly different things going on. For example, this nurse told me, well, your mother's real personality is just really coming out now. She didn't know my mom. And what she said hurt me badly because I knew that my mother wasn't combative. That's a feature of frontotemporal dementia, is a change in your whole way of approaching life. So it's good to know what kind you're dealing with. The other tool, and now I'm going to call on Jason, is a handout that I have created. And it's called a me sheet. I believe he just posted it for you in the chat box. It's called a me sheet. Now, when you go into what they call a facility, I call them residences because that's where people live, right? So you go into assisted living residence or you go independent or whatever it is, they will have a chart on you. And in this chart, they will list a few things about you just to kind of get to know you a little bit, which is helpful. So I made up this chart for you so that it's a little bit more extensive. I would like you to make as many copies as you want, give them to whoever you want. Do fill it out now. In the event that something happens to your own mentation, you're covered. That somebody will know a lot of things about you this way. Put it with your important papers. Put it with your medical documents. Put it with your trust, whatever important papers that you expect people to go to when you need help. And believe me, at some point, we're all going to need help, right? Okay, so are you an introvert? Is uncharacteristic. They're sitting there so quietly. Well, no, that's just who they are. Are you an extrovert? Do you like to be around people and have things to do? And in different stages, in the different gems, that will change over time too. Sensory preferences. When one woman I knew, the meals were served at 4:30 in the afternoon. She didn't eat them. She liked to eat at 7. And bless them, that particular residence changed so that people could have a meal later too. What kind of limitations is the person experiencing? How did you feel valued in life? What was important to you? All these different things. Unfortunately, at the very bottom, I put music down there pretty low. Music is one of the most important ones. You don't see what I'm referring to. If there's a chat box, I believe there's a red number 5 on it, Janet. And if you click that, you'll see, which one is it? Is it Jason's or Chris's? One of those two.
They're the same document.
They're the same document.
So, two different ways for everybody. We'll post it one more time for everybody so you can.
Perfect. So 1, 2, the third and fourth one down in the chat box, there you go. That's what you're looking for, is that document. Now, music is very, very important. And as time, thank you, Chris. And as time goes by, we're finding it's even more important than we realize. Music can literally transport the person to a beautiful time of life for them. One time I was sitting with my mother and a song, a Frank Sinatra song came on. That was her era. And I said, "Hey, Mom, you want to dance?" Because when she was young, she had been a tap dancer on stage as a little girl. I said, "Hey, Mom, you want to dance with me?" "No," she said. So I counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I asked her again, "Hey, Mom, you want to dance with me?" "No." Why did she say no? I think it was because the request was something out of the blue to her, that it wasn't something that she was thinking about. But by the 5th time I asked her, "Do you want to dance?" She said yes. It had gotten into her what I was talking about. And she stood up and we had the most beautiful time just holding each other and swaying to the music. What we made was a moment of meaning and joy, and we both shared it. And that's what this ministry is about. It's about making moments of joy and meaning together. So music always has that ability, sometimes a really strong smell. Beautiful flowers will have a beautiful scent. That kind of thing, of sensory awareness, will bring back a beautiful memory for someone. All these kinds of things. The last one I put on there was decor. Now, if I were to go into a memory care unit and someone else had decorated it, whose taste do you suppose they would decorate with? Well, they'd use their own, of course. And if it's the head of the department, they would use their own idea of what they found beautiful, but it might not be mine. And so I've already told my daughter, no matter what, don't put any kind of a chevron pattern anywhere near me, because if there would be, say, a chevron curtains hanging, it would upset me. I don't like that kind of movement. That's just me, is what I'm saying. So that movement would upset me, and I'd probably hit somebody and they wouldn't know why. And so they'd tell me I'm violent and I need to be on drugs. Do you see how the misunderstanding comes in? So by filling out this sheet, you are helping people to know who you are in the event that you are not able to speak for yourself. So those 2 tools, the me sheet and the animal game, are 2 ways that you can help prepare yourself so that you can understand what may be going on with you if you start noticing these changes. Now, I have an agenda, and my agenda is the church has always been with people in different states of need. We have all kinds of ministries well established in the church. We have youth ministries. We have ministries to prisons. Boy, that's one I cannot do. That's just completely out of my wheelhouse. Why would we not want to have a ministry with people living with dementia? So that is my agenda. I would like to see heads of congregations who are the ones that notice what's going on with people in their congregations, who are trusted to hold information, that they would be trained in this technique. And there's a whole technique to it. There's a way of approaching someone respectfully that we don't have time to get into today, but I would love to do with you. And a whole church-wide, and that's capital C, church-wide ministry for people living with dementia, that we all walk together and we all accompany one another in love. If that isn't something that I think the church is called to, I don't know what is. So at this point, we have a few more minutes left. This isn't a caregiving group, so it's not so much to share stories, but if you have some questions, I would be most happy to try to address them.
And thank you so much for offering this information to everybody. I want to invite you all, if you have questions, feel free to let us know. And if you prefer to just type it out, you can put that in the chat as well. You can use the hand raising feature if you know how to use that. If not, I invite you to unmute yourself and ask your question. Yeah, you can raise your hand too if your video is on. But we'd love to offer any questions that we have right now to Anne. We're also going to be dropping, along with the link to the PDF that Anne shared with you, we'll also drop in there a link to her website so you can find out more about Ponder Anew, her ministry.
And it's on Facebook as well. I put a lot of information on the Ponder Anew Facebook page.
And thank you, Anne, for being here. We're so grateful for you taking this time, for the presence you brought to this conversation and the subject matter, and making something that's a really difficult conversation for a lot of people approachable and digestible. So we're grateful to you. Friends, we will be sharing a link of this video and the other various links that are associated with this evening's talk in the coming weeks through our diocesan communication. So watch out for that so you can share this with others. We'll be taking a Transformation Academy hiatus for the next couple of months and be back in the new year with our new roster of sessions. Please look up Anne and her work. Remember, it's Ponder Anew, so you can find that on Facebook, and you can also find that through her website. We'll make sure that we share some of those links with you. But thank you all for caring about this subject matter and for being here with your great questions and contributions to the conversation. I hope you have a great remainder of your evening. And once again, Anne, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Peace.
My honor. Thank you.